welcome you to the discussion group for Celebrating Me this evening. We are very blessed to have Dr. Meg Haworth be our keynote speaker today. Dr. Meg Haworth has done a section for the book Celebrating Me, Embracing Who God Created Me to Be by none other than Johnny Green. But in her presentation, Johnny and I were so moved by Dr. Meg's message that we wanted to share it with other people because it is a powerful message of transformation and how we heal from the inside out. And that's why we wanted to call this discussion group A Healing of the Soul. Dr. Meg is a native of Washington, D.C., turned Los Angelan. She's a trailblazer who shifts clients into healthy, strong, vibrant, and whole individuals ready to live inspired and meaningful lives using her mind, body, medicine, nutrition, and transpersonal psychology. One of the things that she shared with us as we were talking to her about the book is how she has seen people that once they began to go through a healing process that she walks them through in reference to their emotions, that a lot of times they start losing weight without going on any form of diet. And a lot of times when they're dealing with chronic illnesses, they can see those illnesses removed. Now, not only does she know this with her patients, but Dr. Meg has personally experienced this in her own life. I would like to let her give her own testimony because it is earth-shaking when you realize this beautiful, amazing, powerful woman has been through a lot. But not only has she been through a lot, she's helping others to a journey of wellness. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker for this evening, Dr. Meg Haworth.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this book, Celebrating Me, that Johnny Green wrote. When she called me to ask me to be a part of it, when I felt her, and who she is and her energy, she resonated so strongly with me. I could feel her love. I could feel her excitement for this project. And even though I didn't really know much about her story up front, I've read the book now, I mean, her story is powerful. She's been through some really dark stuff, and she's now sharing that. And that's one of the big things I want to talk about tonight too, is how powerful it is sharing our stories. And my personal story is that of was sexually, physically, and emotionally abused as a child. And by the time I was in my early 20s, I was sick, and I went in and out of doctor's offices for the entire decade of my 20s. And I was getting one diagnosis after the next. I ended up with over a dozen illnesses, and I just, was just trying to figure out what to do about it all. Eventually, I had a moment where everything sort of changed for me, and it seemed like a small thing. And I think this is important to really think about, for other people that are on their journey now, is that a lot of times a choice that seems like a really small choice can end up being one of the biggest ones you ever made. And for me, just picking up the phone and calling a friend and asking her for a referral to a chiropractor, because I was in so much pain, I could barely hold up this magazine. I was reading an article in the Washingtonian magazine on alternative medicine, and that article is what really kind of changed my life. So I called a friend, and so in that one phone call, I started to be told, my chiropractor sent me to a nutritionist, and sent me to a yoga instructor, and sent me to a meditation instructor. And I went from thing to thing, and just opened up this whole world of trying to understand what was going on with me. And even though I did a great healing from nutrition and chiropractic work and yoga and meditation and all of that, there was still this wall I hit. And that was really the wall of abuse and how the body holds memories. And that's what I ended up really working towards. And, 6 years ago, I had another big turning point in my life. I was struck by lightning on Venice Beach, California. And when that happened, I remember laying in the bed in the emergency room, and I wasn't that aware of my body. I was in so much shock. The only thing I could really feel was my head was burning, like inside and out from the lightning. And I was laying there thinking, wow, what's up next? Like it felt to me like it was some kind of a spiritual initiation. A lot of people would say, oh my gosh, you were struck by lightning. What is God trying to tell you? Like God smote you. And I don't see it that way. I saw it more as like, here's this powerful moment where I've been initiated into what, to me, now I know it was the next level of my life and my service here to others. And I think that's the powerful thing about this book, Celebrating Me, is that Johnny May Green said, I'm sharing my story. This is hard. It's hard to share these details. But I know that there's a power in letting this out. And I heard her interview just a few days ago. And she's fantastic. She's a great interview. I'm going to have her on my podcast. Don't forget that. She was talking about how when she went through the journey of writing this book, as she wrote it, it was very painful and very difficult to do it. But as she did it, she started to lose more and more weight. She lost 46 more pounds. That's a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. And she also noticed that as she's been out there sharing her book, she's been on this media tour since March, just sharing. Her health has improved. Her weight continues to stabilize or to lose weight. And this is my big question, and the thing I love to really look at in people is why? Why is it that when we share our stories and we unburden ourselves, listen to this word, unburden ourselves of the weight of our past, we unburden ourselves of the secrets and the shame that our body's carrying? Because if you're carrying a secret, you are carrying the shame, the guilt, the sorrow, the pain. You're carrying all of that inside of your body. And that is a very uncomfortable thing to do. And it creates all kinds of other havoc in your life because you're acting out in your relationships in all kinds of ways. You're getting sick. Many of us, get very, very sick when we're holding on to the memories of the past. And so I want to bring a little bit of the science in here right now. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is the largest public health study ever done. It was done at Kaiser Permanente in San Diego, California. And what they did is they tracked over 17,000 people, and they're still tracking them now since the mid-90s, about what happened to them as a child. And, what kinds of experiences did they go through, and how did that connect to their illness? And what they found is that there's an indelible link between childhood abuse and illness. And one of the things that they found through the science is that when you're a child and you are constantly in fight, flight, or freeze mode, the cortisol and adrenaline, those hormones are just coursing through your body, and they get to the point where it's so much overload that they become toxic to the system and they depress the immune system. And when that happens, you're open and vulnerable to all kinds of things, from infections to illness to long-term diseases. And some of the diseases that they found were most associated were things like autoimmune diseases, lung diseases were one of the things at the top of the list. Substance abuse is a big thing. Mental illness is a big thing that's associated with adverse childhood experiences. And if you go to my website, you can get the adverse childhood experiences quiz. And there's a 10-question quiz. And the higher you go on the scale, the more likely you are to develop certain illnesses. And so that's, you know, a big part of the work I do is informed by that. But what I do specifically really is looking at a concept called the body mind. And it's your body has a mind of its own. And they've been just studying this part of the body mind, this part for decades now. And there's still not a whole lot known about it, but what we do know is that the body's holding its own experiences. And let me give you an example. So someone I knew had a lot of food allergies and they were force-fed as a child. And so when that person was being force-fed, what they shared was that they were crying, they were, you know, retching. It was very, very traumatic for them. And so basically what happened was those foods that she was being forced to eat were being seen as toxic by the body mind, because the body mind couldn't relate to the conscious mind's awareness of this food that was going into the body didn't have anything to do with anyway. Basically, the body mind linked the upset, the distress with that food substance, that food chemical, and it eventually read it as something to go, alert, alert, this food substance is going to make you sick. So it stimulates the immune system, the histamine response, and so you have this allergy. So that's an example of the body mind and how it's remembering the experience, even if you don't, even if you're trying to forget it. And I know most of us are trying to forget the experience of the bad things that happened to us. And we're also encouraged, we're really encouraged to do that, you know, put on the happy face. And I know there's so many of you out there that are like me, or like I was, like Johnny was, where we were putting on the big happy face for everybody. But inside we were literally dying. We were sick. We didn't want to be here. We were sad. We were scared. We were, you know, all these things, and just overcoming all of these things, we find our way to do it. But I love that we've entitled this about a healing for the soul, because that's a big piece of this. There's a funny scene in a movie from the Coen brothers. They're one of my favorite writing duos. It was the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And there's three main characters, and they're in this car, and they're at a crossroads, and they pick up this guy who has a guitar, and the guy with the guitar gets in the car, and he said, you know, I sold my ever-loving soul I've sold my soul for this here guitar. And one of the characters goes, why would you sell your ever-loving soul for the guitar? And he said, well, I wasn't using it. And it was just like, this is how a lot of people are living, really, is they don't know the power of being connected to their souls. And I think that this, because it becomes a religious concept, and for many of us it is, and that's fine. But we have an energy system, whether you're aware of it or not, and being connected to your energy system is being connected to your body mind. It's being connected to your unconscious mind. It's being connected to this part of you that most of us aren't aware of. It's probably the most overlooked part of healing that there is. You know, the first thing they do when you go to the doctors, they're going to look at the physical problem and what can we do? What pill can we do to resolve it? What surgery can we do to resolve it? And, you know, that's all well and good, but when you are ignoring the mental, emotional, and the spiritual or energetic aspects, you're ignoring some of the most important parts of why the person got sick in the first place. And so this science is growing and growing and growing. And my contribution towards it is I had created a technique called whole person integration technique, and I'm now certifying people in using this, practitioners to use it. And I've been using it for 15 years now. And I have watched people release the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs associated with a memory that the body's holding. So in the technique, they're able to see simultaneously, oh, that pain in my stomach that's associated with my ulcer is also associated with this thought, feeling, and belief. And oh my gosh, I can let that go. Once they see the connections, they're able to say, okay, you know what, it's time to release this. And when they do, I've watched things heal up overnight and not come back, because this is how powerful the mind is over the body. It's how powerful it is when we release our stories.
Mm-hmm.
And we release however we find our way to do this, because there's many, many different ways to do it. When we release the thoughts, the feelings, beliefs at the bottom of the story, we get better. And it's really a process of forgiveness, and it's forgiveness is also, I think of it as releaseness. It's you're releasing energy from your field, from your energetic field. You're getting it out of you. And so that you get to the point where you can talk about the memory of this abuse that happened to you, and it's no longer has that emotional charge. That emotional charge is part of what's draining your biological system and making you sick. And so this is powerful. To know this is just the first step, and to do something about it is the next thing. And again, there are many, many ways to go about releasing this energy from your body so that it no longer has the power over you. Forgiveness, I think, is one of the most misunderstood things ever, because it's not about getting the other person in front of you who did the horrible thing to say, I forgive you to. It's really not about that. It's really about taking back your power, the power that you've given to the experience and you've given to the victimization that has followed the experience. You have to first say, you know what, I have been victimized and I do identify as a victim, and I don't want to identify with this anymore. And one of the best ways to start disidentifying with the victim is to begin to think, instead of this happened to me, listen to the language here. This is really important. This happened for me. And that's a hard shift to make when something horrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did something horrible, and it's a hard shift to go, this happened for me. Because now this experience, you have power and dominion over the experience by recognizing it as something I can do something about. I'm no longer the victim of it. We are so wrapped up in shame and blame and guilt and who did what to whom that we forget that we can take our own power back, or we maybe don't even know we can take our own power back to ourselves, and take responsibility for our part. And I don't mean our part in what somebody did to us. I'm not saying that should, that you're ever going to say that's okay. It's not okay. But our part is how we use that experience going forward. I had somebody on my podcast very recently who said something that was interesting. And I hadn't put it this way before, but victims become persecutors in some way, whether it be you're persecuting yourself by self-harming through alcohol or drugs or sex or shopping or all the different things that we do to self-harm. Food, because we talk about, this is a big part of the book, is the weight, the burden of food. But it's not the food that's really the problem. It's the emotional overload that we've got on ourselves, and we're trying to soothe ourselves with anything, and sugar's good. Those cookies are good.
Tell me about it.
We want that, but we also know that the consequences on the other side of it, we feel like we are powerless to overcome the consequences. Like, we know the consequences, but we still continue to do it. And it's the answers, I think, are in the body mind, because the body mind's holding on to that experience, those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs associated with why you're doing this in the first place. So I know I've said a lot. I think, just mentioning the adverse childhood experiences study, and I think a key here is that your emotions, we know they can make you sick, right? We know things like I have a sick headache, or that person makes me sick to my stomach, or I'm so sick and tired. We all know this. We use this in everyday language. But emotions can also make us well, and this is where that soul comes in, because I feel like the soul's really light, and it has within it love and joy and compassion and caring and kindness, and your energy system has that in it just as much as your energy is, actually more so than you have the pain, the sorrow, the guilt, the shame. So it's bringing all of those beautiful qualities of love, kindness, compassion, self-compassion, and giving it to yourself first. And only then are you really able to give out to others. And I know, it's so apparent to me that Johnny has done her work and continues. I imagine that she continues to heal through this process. I know I heal every time I speak to a group or work with a client, even more and more. It's not something like I'm healed, I'm done. I say as long as you're in a body, the fun never stops. So, so I appreciate this opportunity, and I'd love any questions that you have about anything that I've said to.
Well, one of the things that I want to ask you, Dr. Meg, is you have talked about having fibromyalgia.
Yes.
So how do you feel that you were able to work through that process in reference to your emotions?
That's a great question. And fibromyalgia, like many illnesses, are multi-layered. Mm-hmm. So I dealt with the toxicity in my environment and removing things that were draining my system. Mm-hmm. From like Wi-Fi in the bedroom, I had to get it out of the bedroom. That was keeping me up at night. I didn't know it. Mm-hmm. To food toxins, body products, all those kinds of things. So there's the toxicity level, and then there's the food level, and there's a lot of toxins in our food. And so getting my diet tweaked and getting it right for my own body. But in terms of the emotions, fibromyalgia is very closely related to childhood abuse. There have been studies done, especially sexual abuse is a big connector with fibromyalgia. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that happens is you never get really deep sleep, or you get small amounts of it and not enough to keep your body sustained. And so, there are a lot of people that were, abused while they were in bed at night. Or they listen to their parents arguing, mm-hmm. or throwing things, or, and you're in your bed terrified for your mom because your dad's just going at her. I mean, there's just all kinds of ways that, you got used to it, an interrupted sleep, for instance, and this wears away at the body. So for me, a lot of the emotions associated with fibromyalgia for me were shame and guilt. Fear, and those things that were associated with the abuse experiences that I went through. And so releasing, and it's a layered effect. It's not, when I talk about people that have those overnight things, those overnight healings, where they're just like, wow, this condition's gone. Those are people too that have been working on it for years and years. And it's finally like, okay, this layering effect. And now it's finally, the dam is ready to break. We're in that tipping point. And this is the thing that pushed them over into, okay, now my body can heal. It can do what it's meant to do, because the body is meant to heal itself.
That's powerful. How, Dr. Meg, do you work with people to understand how their emotions are connected with what they're physically experiencing? I'm also a minister, and I remember one time I had a manager who asked me to pray for her because she was dealing with this illness where she was regurgitating, her food was coming up, and I asked her, I said, and she thought, like the pain was in her stomach. I said, do you mind if I put my hand where God is telling me that the pain is coming from? And she said, no, that's fine. And she thought I was going to go for her stomach, and I went to her heart. And when I just started saying what the Lord was placing on my, she started crying because it affirmed what she was dealing with. And I didn't know that much about her, but the spirit in me connected with whatever the pain was. So how do you get people to really understand, yes, it's your head hurting, but really it's your heart that is dealing with all these other issues?
Yeah, and that's part of the technique because it gets them connected with the body.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're in that emotion and they're talking about how painful things have been for them, or whatever the thing that they're going through in the moment, part of the technique is having them scan their bodies. And so say they came up with feeling really fearful.
Mm-hmm.
So this fearful part of them, I ask them to close their eyes and get in touch with their bodies and where are they feeling the fear, and they'll go right to the heart, or sometimes they'll go to the head, or they'll go wherever it is that they have stored their fears. The first place they're going to go, and they're going to feel it now. So I'll say, well, what's the physical sensation like? And they'll say, it's tight, it's painful. It's, my heart's palpitating. Oh, I get these heart palpitations. Oh, this must happen when I get fearful. So they start making these connections.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also make the connection to, what, I don't want to carry this forward. I want to let this go. So that's a big piece of it. So yeah, it's a very intuitive process, and a lot of times the person already intuitively kind of knows where they're going to go, or I know, because I can feel it. I can feel it before they say it most of the time, because that's part of my training too,
Right.
is that using the empathy and the sensitivity and the intuitive to help, and which is exactly what you did with that woman. You just followed the lead of God working through you.
Right. Well, before we go on, we have 3 of your books to give away. Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. So I'm going to do my first drawing, and the name is Tatiana. So Tatiana, I'm going to need for you to, you can put your address in the chat, or you can send me an email with your address, and we will get this book off in the mail to you on tomorrow. The email address will be Sylvia, Sylvia, Hines, Hines, the number 9 @gmail.com. So send me your address, and we'll make sure that you get this book. So that's our first drawing. But I'd like to ask if Johnny would like to ask any questions in reference to what you have said. I'm thinking, I don't know if she is muted.
I wasn't
Johnny?
mute. One of the things I'd like for Dr. Meg to share with the group is how she can be contacted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm easy to find on meghaworth.com. It's meghaworth.com. And I do offer free 20-minute consultations. I talk to everybody before I work with them to make sure that we're a good fit for each other. I think that's a powerful thing to do, is, to make sure you feel right with your practitioner. So, yeah, so meghaworth.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all at Dr. Meg Haworth, and it's Haworth.
I don't really have any more questions because I'm just, I know what she's saying is so true, because after, us, doing the book and listening to her, and I've already started to use some of the technique that she talked about. One of the things that I'd like to say to everyone that's on this call is, if you can share with one person what was said on this call, because it's being recorded, share it with your friends. Yesterday I went to a function, and I realized I was in a city where this lady wanted my book. So I told her I'd drive it over and drop it off. And she said, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, yes, I do. And I know that the Spirit was showing me to do that and not have her come where I was, because I was with a group of 30-some ladies. And when I got there, I ended up staying about an hour and a half, because she was telling me about some issues that was going on and some things that happened. And then she was also telling me about her friend. And I'm like, oh my God, the more that I get in the presence of women with this book, I cannot believe, you know, like how you walk around, you go into grocery stores, you go into the nail shop, you go into beauty shop, and they're sitting there just like I was, smiling and laughing, and just like everything is great, hurting inside, go behind 4 doors, and I'm a totally another person.
Right.
Because I had all of this locked up and didn't know how to get rid of it. And I know that, you know, you're supposed to be able to go to talk to people about your issues and problems. But the problem is when you go talk to someone, they tell somebody else and then it gets taken out of context. So here I go and I put it in the form of a book.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody can see what I'm saying. And, you know, it's some of it is shameful, some of it is very hurtful, but I decided to do it. And now when I talk to ladies, they're like, oh my God, this happened to me. I had ladies that had ordered my book that was at this meeting yesterday, and they were coming up to me saying, I can relate to so much of what you said in the book. And so if, you know, my goal is to go cross country. Now that I've written this book and I've told all of the secrets and whatever of my being behind the 4 walls, depressed, even though I was successful in the jobs that I had, the business that I had, I ask that you tell some woman or buy some woman this book for Christmas and help set somebody else free. Now that I'm free, my goal is to free as many women, and men's are also mentally abused. Men's also. That is my goal. If you see me, like today I went to church, I have on my uniform. My uniform is my shirt that says "Celebrated Me," and I'm so grateful to Sylvia Donovan Hine, the owner of Chocolate Diamond Publishing Company, that she told me that I needed to celebrate me, and that became the name of the book. And everyone can celebrate themselves. You can wear this shirt, because I have people come up to me all the time. I was in a hotel. This lady said, "Oh, it's your birthday. You're celebrating your birthday." And I go, "No, I'm not celebrating my birthday. I'm celebrating me." So I whipped out I have bookmark that says "Celebrating Me," and I gave her a bookmark, and I said, "Go to my website." And so that's how I'm getting the word out to other people. So please help me spread the word. Help some woman. I was told yesterday there's a woman who is living with some man and he's abusing her. Help some woman get free. I've been there, done all of that. So my thing now is to help somebody else get free. So that's what I would ask each one of you that's under the sound of my voice to do. Help free somebody else.
That's powerful, Johnny, and definitely I appreciate you being so transparent in your testimony and how you have shared what you've gone through to help other people be free. I'd like to go back to Dr. Meg as we begin to wrap up. Dr. Meg, in your book, well, not just in your book, but when we've talked to you, you mentioned how women may say, "Oh, I hate my stomach," and really they're speaking against a part of their body that is to help with the digestion process. or, or I'm ugly, my nose is this. And, they start talking about different forms of your body. Well, your nose is designed to help bring in air into your body. So tell us a little bit about that whole process and how we get beyond that, because as women, we're definitely good at talking about various parts of our body.
Oh my gosh, we're encouraged to, we just see, we put ourselves down left and right, and when you do put yourself down and you're shaming yourself, you're saying there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with the creation of me. And, that's a big thing to do. So, because whatever you claim after I am is powerful. And so if you just say, I am fat, I am ugly, I am disgusting, or my stomach is disgusting, all those things that I know women say to themselves. And I've caught myself sometimes, I gain like 10 pounds and I go, oh my gosh, my stomach is so gross. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're putting yourself down. And instead, just thank you, stomach, for digesting my food. Thank you for, bringing nourishment into my body. Thank you, arms, for lifting things and hugging and being grateful for the fact that I even get to do those things, because there's some people who can't. Thank you for these beautiful eyes. If you're, don't like the color of them, love the color of them. Find a way to love yourself by just admiring yourself. And this can be really hard at first, that there's mirror work where you stand in front of the mirror and you say, I love you to yourself. And a lot of people start doing that work and they just burst into tears. They're just crying. Just get through it and keep saying every day, I love you, I love you, I love you. You're so amazing. You're so beautiful. You're so incredible. And that's recognizing the soul qualities that you have. It's recognizing who you really are. And if you are calling out everything that's wrong with you, you're calling out everything of who you think you are. Who you told you are, who you were told you should be, you ought to be, or, how other people told you weren't good enough and you bought into it.
Yes.
So it's releasing yourself from those kinds of messages, and you start by just being kind to you. Monitor your self-talk, because we're saying stuff to ourselves all day long, and we don't often know what we're saying when you start to go, oh, I just called myself stupid for forgetting to do that thing, like that's not good, You wouldn't call your best friend stupid because she forgot to do something. You'd be like, okay, whatever.
Right.
So you start doing that with yourself first.
How do you get people to embrace this journey? For example, I had a relative that told me I was heavy, and it wasn't until I got in college and I gained weight and I was trying to get back to this weight, and I looked at some pictures of me and I almost looked anorexic, and I was like, I was going to Weight Watchers at this size, and I actually ended up confronting that person, and she said, I thought you knew you weren't fat. And I'm like, at 16, no, I didn't. I knew the mirror that you gave me, not the one that I actually saw. So how do you get people to embrace this journey of really loving themselves and looking at themselves as God would look at them, and not maybe as they've been looking at themselves?
It's a great question, because you have to want to, you have to be in that place where you have to decide. That's the first step for anything. When you decide, you're no longer going to allow this thing to take over your life or allow someone else to define you. That's something we do a lot. We're always looking to someone else to tell us how good we look, or how wonderful we are. And if you're not even telling that to yourself, it's just, so I have these conversations, of course, with my clients, usually when a person gets to me, they're ready. They're just like, I can't do what I'm doing anymore, and I want to get well. So, just getting to that place of, you know what, I'm going to do what it takes. And the core of what this takes is being loving and kind to you.
Do you have an example of somebody that you have worked with where you've had to bring them out of this dark place into a healing that you would like to share?
Gosh, it's so many people.
Just one that just stands out in your mind that you like, maybe when you met them, you were like, I don't know if this, but you just saw this amazing transformation.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, actually, I have a current client I've been working with for a few months, and she came to me with kidney disease and fatty liver disease, and was just in a really bad place in general in her life, even though she has this wonderful life, married, a beautiful son, great job during the pandemic and all of that. She's got a lot of good, and she could recognize that. She's like, why am I not more grateful? Why am I not, and it was getting her in touch with why she was sick in the first place. So looking at the experiences that contributed to that in her body, and her making those connections. It's just amazing to watch that just set her free. And not slowly. This happens pretty rapidly. It sets her free from the who she thought she was as she starts to make the connections between, the relationships in her life and the things she went through as a child, and how those are still informing her today, and how those are connected to her kidneys and to her liver, and then how she has the power to be able to let them go. And so she's in just a few months, she's made huge gains. She's taken care of all these things in her life that she hadn't before. Her health has improved dramatically. I've got her on a better diet for herself, referred her to my Oriental medical doctor for some herbal medicine. That's helping a lot. She's just shining, and she's really finding herself. And that's, that's so big for women, especially, women, because we take care of the family, we take care of everybody else, and usually the last person, you say this in your book first off, right? You start right there. The last person you take care of is yourself, and that needs to be the first person you take care of. And so it's like you have to shift a major mindset, because it's not just your own mindset, it's a cultural mindset. It's an archetypal mindset of mom and, and woman being the caretaker.
Wow, so. That's powerful. Well, we have another drawing for another book. So somebody's gonna get well now. I don't have a name, but the person, the phone number 310, the last digits are 608. Can you give me your name? Let's see. I don't know if I think that person is muted. Okay, I'm going to unmute you on my end. Okay, hello? Let me see if I can. Okay, okay, let me go to the next person.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes?
All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Who is it?
Oh, okay, my name is Betty. Yeah, Betty.
Okay, Betty? Okay, Betty?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Praise the Lord.
Okay.
All
Betty,
right.
can you, I'm going to give you my email address. Will you send me your mailing address, and we'll get that,
All right.
out to you tomorrow? My email address is Sylvia, Sylvia, Hines, HINES, the number 9
All right.
at gmail.com. And I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
All right. That's Sylvia Hine. And what was the rest of it? I didn't get the
gmail.com. And I also put it in the chat.
Okay.
Hello,
All
Betty.
right, then, hi, my sweetheart. How are you?
Oh,
It's good to
girl,
hear
I'm just
you.
wonderful. Oh my God,
This is,
you got to call me because I was thinking about you last week.
I'm going to give you a call. The program was very, very informative. I've enjoyed discussion that you were having, but I just wanted to join you this evening and let you know I was on the line. Okay?
Yes, I appreciate that. God bless you, darling.
Yep.
Thank you so much,
Yeah, I
Betty.
want to thank
You
that.
will be getting a copy of the book. Now, is there anyone else that would like to ask a question before, as we get ready to wrap up?
I wanted to ask the doctor a question while I'm on the line. Can I do that?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. I found out some years ago, I was in a relationship, and my marriage was an interesting marriage, let's put it that way. And once I divorced, I found out that every time I would go into the department store and I would pass the cologne section, the men's cologne section, I would smell the fragrance, which reminded me of my ex-husband. And it would send me into a place that I really didn't want to go. So the question I want to ask her is that possible to be another thing where you have the mind and the body connection? Is that something that's connected also?
Absolutely. Environmental triggers like that can happen at any time. That smelling something that reminds you of your past. In fact, the sense of smell is one of the most intuitive senses that we have, that we connect to experiences. And so, yeah, and I would say to you that when that happens, what emotions come up for you? Because the emotions are the indicator of the unresolved issues between you, inside of you, around that relationship, if that makes sense. So that those emotions will be somewhere in your body, and you'll feel them when you start to get in contact. And actually my whole person integration technique is in the book that you'll be getting. It's also on my website that you get for free when you join the website. And so you can try the technique on yourself. There's the simple technique that you can do on you to work with the emotions, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, and how your body's holding on to that experience, so that when you walk through and you smell that smell, or you hear that song, or something, you won't fall to pieces anymore,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I thank you so much. That's very helpful. And I'm looking forward to getting a copy of the book. So thank you so much for answering that question.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed everything. All right, my sweetheart. I'll be calling you. All right?
Darling. Okay.
Thank you so much, Betty. And then our last drawing goes to, believe it or not, it's going to be our speaker for the next session on November 29th, which is Dr. Brent Wolff. Dr. Brent, you will be receiving a copy of this book.
Yay, I wanted a book. Got me a book.
Hello, Brent. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, how are you?
I feel like $1 million because you guys, I tell you, you have no idea how much you have lifted me.
Amen.
Oh, you have.
Likewise. I'm blessed to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Dr. Brent, do you have any, as we're getting ready to wrap up, do you have any closing remarks to lead us into what you're going to be talking about on November 29th, and to highlight some of the comments that Dr. Meg Haworth has made as well?
Man, this was good stuff tonight, Dr. Meg. So right on point about how the mind and the body are connected and work together. And the body has its own brain, and the mind has a brain as well, and they function together. And helping people to understand the connection between them is so powerful to help them take their power back. My segment will be focusing in the theme of celebrating me on the cost of loving oneself. And so, again, loving yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically, and just how we do that and the cost of it, and that we have to pay a price. And so I'll talk a little bit about some scripture and just some tools on how we can love ourselves. Dr. Meg led us right into a lot of that also, about how important emotions are and our thoughts are. And so we're just going to kind of piggyback where she left off and go right into that as well.
All right, all right. Well, we're excited, right?
I'm excited, yes.
That turkey and dressing and
That's right. We'll have all our leftovers.
right. Well, as we're wrapping up, Dr. Meg, one of the things that you mentioned, you talked about like getting the toxins out of your environment and things like that that led to healing, and also as far as nutrition. What would you like to say in your closing remarks about how we can start our personal journey so that we can get well now? Because I got my copy. I couldn't go with the luck of the draw. I made sure I had my own.
Yeah, I think the first step, as I mentioned before, really has to do with the decision.
Mm-hmm.
You decide, I can no longer do what I've been doing now, and it's time to make a different choice in my life. And then it doesn't have to be a giant choice right now. It could be picking up the phone and getting a referral for an alternative medical doctor or whatever it is, a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
just somebody, a minister, somebody who you can talk to so that you can start letting the secrets out, letting the pain out, letting the shame out. And you don't have to think about it being this giant thing I have to overcome. Just you do anything one step at a time, and so just take one step towards your healing today. That's all it takes. And then everything, when you make that decision and you take that one step, the whole world opens up to you. Everything just rushes towards you. It's like God saying, here's everything, here's all the people, here's all the books and the phone calls and the classes, and everything you need just comes rushing at you. And because I think the universe wants to heal us. God wants to heal us.
Yes.
It's our natural state of being. Harmony is our natural state.
Wow. That is so powerful. Thank you, Dr. Meg, and thank you, Dr. Brent, for joining us on next week. But the information is so powerful, and thank you, Johnny. And the reason I say thank you, Johnny, is that Johnny was transparent about a portion of her life when she did not have control of being able to see her children, and she began to start drinking, and as a manager was missing work, and one of her supervisors knew this was not in her character and let her know that she could see psychiatric help through her insurance, and she sought that help, and that led her on a road to recovery, which she was just spiraling down. A lot of times in our community, that's something that we don't talk about.
That's right.
But I remember when I was growing up, my adopted mom told me, because she knew that my biological mom had some emotional issues. So to prepare me on dealing with emotional issues, she said, a scar is a scar, whether it's on your hand or it's in your soul. So we as a people have to embrace those hidden scars in our souls so that our bodies can heal. And I thank you, Dr. Meg, for this amazing message to help us on our journey to wellness and help us with the healing for our souls.
Yes.
Welcome. So welcome. Thank you for this opportunity to be involved in this project and to get to know you all. You're just So beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for those that joined us on the call. Please, if you did win a copy of the book, make sure you send me an email with your address so you can get your book. And if you didn't win it, you can also purchase it on Amazon. And the book is Get Well Now with Dr. Meg Haworth. And we thank you very much for joining us for this session of the Celebrating Me discussion group. We will meet again on Sunday, November 29th at 7:00 p.m. Central Time with Dr. Brent Wolff. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.